Ruled the roost. There's no two ways about it. I love this particular phrase that was put out about her when Margaret Thatcher, the then Prime Minister, basically rang up Buckingham Palace and said, could she check what Her Majesty was wearing, because she didn't want to clash at this particular state banquet. And the message back was, don't worry, Her Majesty the Queen wouldn't notice what anybody else was wearing. Very Betton Joan, isn't it, when you think about it? A fabulous put down, of course. Now, a lot of people say, did Margaret Thatcher and our wonderful late monarch, Queen Elizabeth, actually get on? And the bigger story was, of course, there you have two of the most powerful women in the world for the very first time. She was, of course, Britain's first female Prime Minister. Now, so we've had a brand new election over here in the last couple of days, which has seen the removal of the Right Honourable Rishi Sunak, replaced, of course, by the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer. It's fascinating to see exactly how the relationship between Margaret Thatcher and Her Majesty the Queen actually became one of great friendship. Let me explain. Hi, lovely to see you. Could you see these beautiful flowers, by the way? Aren't they absolutely gorgeous, don't you think? Just looks lovely, doesn't it? This is summer, by the way. I know you can't tell, but it's not very nice, is it? A little bit chilly as well. I know, could be time, yes. I think we need a flask break. Are you having one already? Well, we've only just started, how dare you? Give us a chance. Don't nod off. But no, aren't the flowers nice? They're just beautiful, aren't they? But thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the flowers that I try and find you, because I think it just cheers people up, doesn't it? Looking at nature, all that sort of stuff. Look at those little pink things there. Just wonderful, aren't they? Now, let's get back to your royal story of the day. As I said, two powerful women, yes, and both, of course, used to get in their own way. And the story goes that actually Margaret Thatcher and Her Majesty the Queen really didn't get on. Now, I was lucky enough to meet Mrs. Thatcher on a number of occasions and got very friendly with her daughter Carol. We worked together quite a lot at a news channel. She was a lovely lady, very down to earth, and strangely enough, wasn't interested in following in the footsteps of her mother in any of that level. She lived at 10 Downing Street. It must have been fabulous, as she said, to get dropped off and just to the taxi driver, drop me at 10 Downing Street, and they thought, oh, right, and then she walked through. Those were the days, of course, before the iron gates. But what's interesting about this particular story is that, as you know, Her Majesty the Queen did attend the funeral and did attend a birthday party for Margaret Thatcher. So you can see that a friendship developed, but it wasn't always that way. There was a turning point in that particular friendship. Now, a lot of people state the fact that the former film star, Hollywood icon, Ronald Reagan, was very, very good at placating both women. Of course, he'd known how to deal with women like Rhonda Fleming on the screen and all those westerns, right? But where it got really interesting was he did do a lot to make sure that they got on and kept the peace. Not that they were fighting or whatever. Her Majesty the Queen wouldn't lower herself to do something like that. But Margaret did feel a little out of sorts at points. But the turning point for Her Majesty the Queen was this. In the October, of course, of 1984, and the terrible situation that happened in Brighton at the Grand Hotel, where the IRA tried to blow up many of our British ministers, resulting tragically in 5 deaths. As you know, I recently visited that hotel. It's an amazing place, and when you think of the history. Now, what people forget is that a lot of people after that event basically thought Mrs. Thatcher would close down the conference. She was hosting the Conservative Party conference that day at the Brighton Centre. No, it carried on with few hours sleep, very barely a chance to change her outfit, get anything ready at all. And she gave a momentous speech which really rallied not just the conference, but the world. She would not be pushed around. What happened was, when she came back and they had their very first audience with at Buckingham Palace, Her Majesty the Queen broke the rule and said, I was very impressed with how you handled that particular situation. And I have to say, I'm in great admiration for that. And that apparently was the breaking point of where a friendship started to develop. Two strong women, two powerful women, who of course were put in a situation that they didn't really know how to deal with. As one could assume, Margaret Thatcher didn't care about, creating enemies. She'd famously said that. She could live with it. Her Majesty the Queen actually liked a more easygoing life, didn't want drama, although she did get it in later life, right? So for all those people that say, did Mrs. Thatcher and Her Majesty the Queen get on? Initially, no. But through circumstances, sheer hard work, and, a lot of people might suggest some similarities in each other, both stoic, both unrelenting, and both very powerful. A friendship then finally did develop. And apparently when Mrs. Thatcher died, Her Majesty the Queen was very, very upset on a personal level, and, as we now know, attended that funeral. Not every monarch attends a former British Prime Minister's funeral, so something really did cement in that friendship. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.